Now that we've talked about comparing and ordering numbers in standard notation using place value, we're going to turn to the other forms of writing numbers: fractions, scientific notation, percentages, and radicals. It's not that hard to compare fractions to fractions or percents to percents. But since you're going to be asked to compare, for example, fractions to percents, we're going to work on another strategy, turning them all into standard notation. Before we do that, though, a couple of things I'd like to mention about fractions. First of all, proper fractions versus improper fractions. Proper fractions, like 3/8, are fractions where the digit used as the numerator, 3, is smaller than the digit used as the denominator, 8. Improper fractions have a digit in the numerator that is larger than the digit in the denominator. 8/3 would be an improper fraction. I want you to ignore that distinction from now on. There are just fractions. I might tell you on a quick check or a problem that I want you to enter the answer as an improper fraction. The only extra hint that gives you is that the numerator should be larger than the denominator. Other than that, it should look like any other fraction. Numerator, division bar, denominator. I will never ever ask you for your answer as a mixed number. Mixed numbers are very good in recipes and construction, but it's very hard to perform operations like addition and multiplication on them. If you know how to convert fractions to mixed numbers, that's great, but I don't want you to do it in my class. It's just another chance for you to make a mistake. You should never get an answer as a mixed number. If you're asked to add or subtract mixed numbers, convert them to improper fractions and follow the rules for adding and subtracting. If you're asked to multiply or divide mixed numbers, convert them to fractions and follow the rules for multiplying and dividing. Even though you won't need to change fractions into mixed numbers, you will definitely need to know how to convert mixed numbers to fractions. Remember, this will already be in your notebook from the notes video we looked at earlier. So let's do this one. In the case of 2 and 2/3, for example, you multiply the 2 times the 3 to get 6, add it to the 2, and get 8/3. The one distinction you should care about is simplified versus unsimplified fractions. If I ask you for a fraction as an answer, I expect it in simplest terms, regardless of whether the problem tells you that or not. I'm not going to simplify all of the fractions you could write down. That's your job. You need to look at your fraction. If the numerator and the denominator have any common factors, divide both the top and the bottom by those factors. For example, 24 and 18 are both even, so we can divide the top and the bottom by 2. Now we have 12/9. 9 isn't even, so we can't divide by 2 again. But both 9 and 12 can be divided by 3. So we divide both the numerator and the denominator by 3 to get 4/3. If you can't find any more common factors, your fraction is in simplest terms. Turning fractions into decimals is very easy on your calculator. You simply type in the numerator, then the division sign, then the denominator. That will give you your answer. Notice, though, that the calculator is not always going to give you an exact answer. It has a limited space. In the case of a decimal that goes on forever, like thirds or sevenths or ninths, it will round it right at the very end. You need to recognize that the calculator is actually telling you that the number is a repeating decimal. You indicate that with a line over the digit that repeats. Or you may be asked to round it yourself. For example, to the hundredths place. That sign means approximately 1.67, because that's what happens when we round it. Desmos can also do that for you. To get Desmos to round a number, you press the function key, and then you press the round key. And you get this, the word round with parentheses. You have to put two things in the parentheses. First, the thing that you want rounded, like pi, or in this case, 5/3. Then you have to tell it what place you want it to round to. You use a number to identify how many places after the decimal. The hundredths place is 2 places after the decimal, so you put a comma, which is located right next to the 0 on the bottom row, and then you put a 2, and there's your answer, 1.67. Percents are very easy to change into decimals. Percent means out of 100. So 50% means 50 out of 100. Now we have a fraction. We do the division on Desmos, we get 0.5. 50% equals 0.5. Notice that Desmos has a percent sign on it. Now that you've noticed it, forget about it. Because if you press that, for example, after you enter 50, you get this, 50% of. And then it's waiting for another number. And that's not what you want. All you want to do is 50 divided by 100. That's true even if the percent is written with a fraction or with a decimal itself. If it has a percent sign, it's still a percent, and you have to follow the same procedure. For example, 1/4%. Write that as 1/4 over 100. Do the math and get your answer, 0.0025. Same thing with 3.125%. Write that as 3.125 over 100. Do the math and get 0.03125. Now, you can learn a fairly easy shortcut. Take the percent and move the decimal over 2 spaces. That will give you a percent. That's the same as dividing by 100. Okay? But probably the easiest way to do it is to use Mr. Desmos to help you with both fractions and percent. Remember, he's your friend. He's there to help.